At the start of this book, I spoke about the importance of self-leadership, and a key aspect of this is how well you control yourself. This is sometimes referred to as self-management, which forms part of your emotional intelligence, EQ, a concept I explained in Chapter 33. Successful leaders know that excellent self-management is essential. Without it, you risk making all kinds of horrible and sometimes repetitive mistakes that can have all kinds of consequences. You repeatedly lose your temper about trivial and small mistakes made by your team, and some of your team members may become so upset by your reaction that they resign. You have a couple of drinks and make inappropriate comments about a work colleague, and as a result you're investigated by your HR department and risk losing your job. You become upset by an email from a client who is blaming your team for poor performance, and you reply with a strong and very emotional email. During a management meeting, in response to someone challenging you, you become angry and start a heated argument, causing one colleague to say they're tired of having to work with you. Put it into action. Follow a simple process of self-control. Observe yourself more closely and learn when you're becoming emotional and liable to act without thinking. Ask trusted colleagues you're working with to warn you when they sense you might be losing your cool. When you're on the verge of saying the wrong thing, pause and excuse yourself from a meeting, or silently count to 10 to calm yourself. When you realize too late and you have already said or done something inappropriate, immediately apologize to those impacted by your words or actions. Take care with your emails and phone calls. If you know you're upset while writing an email, don't immediately send it. Save it as a draft and come back to it later and decide whether it's okay to send. Similarly, when on the phone or in a video conference, when becoming riled up and upset, find an excuse to pause the conversation, maybe asking for a toilet or coffee break. This will give you time out to calm down. Seek anger management counseling. Sometimes the only way of bringing your emotions under control is to seek counseling from a trained therapist with whom you can explore what is triggering your reactions. They can help you overcome any underlying insecurities, past events and traumas that are fueling your behaviors. Avoid being tired, stressed or hungry. You'll find self-control easier on a full stomach, after a good night's sleep, and when you've exercised and are free of stress. Without enough sleep and healthy eating, your brain will become less sharp and clear, and you risk becoming easily irritated, tired and short-tempered, which increases the probability of you losing your control with other people. 50. Keep your values center stage. What you value in life dictates what kind of leader you become. A successful leader is continually striving to live and lead with some carefully chosen values. Also known as principles or standards, your values underpin how you think, make decisions, act and behave as a leader. They are what drive you and what you seek when leading both yourself and other people. Some people have no idea what their values are, but successful leaders always know what is driving them. Their values might include appreciation, fairness, learning, authenticity, focus, making a difference, autonomy, freedom to act, optimism, belief, gratefulness, passion to win, caring, helping, purpose, commitment, humility, respect, compassion, inspiring, transparency, courage, integrity, truth, empathy, loyalty, trust, excellence, lead by example, wisdom. A leader's values help them know what kinds of behaviors are and are not acceptable to them. When a leader values integrity, they will react strongly when a colleague lies or cheats. A leader who values being caring and empathic will often be the first to console and support a team member who is very upset. The leader for whom persistence is an important value will rarely give up with challenging tasks even when everybody else has done so. Put it into action. Discover your values. The easiest way to know what your values are is to list the actions and behaviors of other people that make you angry or upset. When a colleague upsets you by never preparing for meetings or can never find important paperwork, you probably value work qualities such as being prepared and being organized. When a team member annoys you by always rushing to speak and to dominate discussions, it might be a sign that you value calm reflection and allowing others to be heard. To also help you discover what is important to you, ask close colleagues to describe your working style, attitudes and behaviors, and what they have observed as being very important to you. Focus on only the values that serve you. Once you know your values, reflect upon which ones are helpful to you as a leader. These are the ones you should focus on and might include positive qualities such as being unselfish, empathic, bigger picture focused and inspirational. Encourage your team to practice these same values. If they do, they will eventually become the team's daily habits and working culture. And stop focusing on those that are out of date. Some of your values might be hindering you today as a leader. They might have helped you in the past when you were an individual contributor or were in a different work environment. But now you realize they're no longer helpful. Stop treating them as something you value and do. Such out-of-date values might include qualities such as independence and working alone, being a perfectionist, or being very expressive and emotional. 51. Optimize everything. There's always room for improvement with every single thing you touch. Sometimes you must act like a management consultant by working with your colleagues to help discover more optimal ways of doing things and lead the implementation of any agreed changes or upgrades to systems, processes, or procedures. The resulting discoveries might generate huge benefits in terms of productivity gains, cost reductions, and shorter timeframes. As a leader, you have a good overview of what your different team members and colleagues need to do and achieve, as well as what the systems, workflow, and processes are that they must follow. As a result, you're well placed to observe and understand when workflows may seem overcomplicated and inefficient, processes seem to bring little or no value or are being replicated, systems and procedures cause unnecessary bottlenecks and delays. Some excellent workflows and systems could be replicated in other areas of the business. There are gaps and things missing, being ignored, or not being done well. Successful leaders are used to spotting and discussing such areas for improvement, evaluating how solutions might be implemented. Over time, they're able to develop a systematic and process-driven frame of mind while also maintaining a bigger picture view and a details-oriented focus. They understand it's a team effort and that so much more can be discovered when working together, even involving newer hires, who may bring a fresh perspective and childlike curiosity to your team. Put it into action. Understand best practice ideas and tools. Take an interest in research and articles written by well-known global management consultancies such as McKinsey, Bain, Strategy Plus, and PwC, which offer insights into how leaders are changing and optimizing different aspects of their organizations. Invest time in becoming familiar with the range of tools, methodologies, and frameworks used by leaders and their teams, which can be used to discover, plan, and implement optimal organizational changes and improvements. The more popular tools today include Agile. This is a process for making improvements where small cross-functional teams take full accountability for issues they're asked to tackle. Scrum. This is related to Agile and involves work being undertaken by small teams who divide the tasks into work that can be completed in short and defined time periods. Kanban. A process of visualizing processes and workflow to identify potential bottlenecks and solutions to fix them. Six Sigma. A range of processes used to identify and eliminate the causes of errors or defects and to reduce variability in the quality of any kind of business process. Waterfall. This refers to work being broken down into tasks, with each task depending on a previous one being completed. Kaizen. This refers to a process of continuously seeking to make lean improvements in any part of an organization. Be okay with any disruption, no matter how disruptive and painful a new and needed process might be to implement and work with. Always keep in mind and remind your staff of the benefits that may be created and implemented as a result. Think of any disruption like a major roadworks. Irritating in the short term in return for faster and easier traffic flows in the future. 52 cents. Check before you act. Better to ask a silly question today than to make a stupid mistake tomorrow. When is the last time that you totally misunderstood something, failing to make sense of what you observed, understood, or were told? There's nothing worse than finishing an important task feeling that you've done a great job only to discover that you'd misunderstood what you needed to do, and that your time and effort were wasted. This can be both embarrassing and costly, as you may need to start the task all over again or may have missed an opportunity or key deadline and it's too late to redo the work. This can really annoy and demotivate your team if they must help you rework things. In extreme cases, your misunderstanding might cost you your reputation or even career. Junior employees might be forgiven for making such mistakes and the cost of them doing the wrong thing is hopefully small. As a leader, You're being paid to get things right and not to create more problems by not understanding properly what needs to be done. Successful leaders totally understand this, and, to ensure they're never guilty of the same mistake, they spend time making sense of what they're being asked to do, the questions they need to answer, or problems they may need to solve. Do the same with their teams and colleagues, encouraging them to explore what they're hearing and understanding while also questioning their own assumptions and perceptions. Put it into action. Slow down to make sense of things before rushing to answer and solve issues and problems. Always spend time alone or with colleagues to make sure that you fully understand what is happening and what is being asked or expected of you and your team. I call it slowing down to speed up. Those extra few minutes or days of delay before starting a task can make all the difference. It's comparable to reading instructions before perfectly assembling one of those DIY pieces of furniture. We all know what happens if you rush to assemble without referring to the instructions at all and getting bits of wood back to front. Take care when a colleague quickly responds in a meeting saying, "Yes, I understand and it's no problem. I will get started right away." Sometimes that might be right response, but so often it won't be the case. Start being a leader who is always helping others to make sense of things by asking questions such as, it might be a silly question, but are we sure about our assumptions or about what the client is really asking us to do? At the risk of sounding stupid, is it really as simple as we are making the problem sound? Do we need to double-check what the other department is expecting? 53 Walk tall. You can't successfully lead when you're cowering in the corner of the room. When you meet new people, do they sense and acknowledge you're a leader, doing so before you introduce yourself and exchange name cards? So many leaders lack presence, gravitas, and stature. When they walk into a meeting with some of their team, other people never guess they're the boss, perhaps mistaking a more confident and extrovert colleague of theirs for that role. You may feel comfortable not standing out as a leader and be very happy to have your colleagues seen as more senior than you. In fact, sometimes this can be a good thing. For example, during a key negotiation when you want to quietly observe the other party without them knowing who you are. However, most of the time, you can't hide away in this manner because to successfully perform in your role you need to appear as and act like a leader. You need to do so in order to stand up for your team and company and represent both in all kinds of meetings, negotiations, venues and events. To do this well, you need executive presence, also referred to as gravitas, stature or walking tall. It's not easy to master, but successful leaders always work to acquire such gravitas. Some are luckier than others and, by virtue of their personality, physical appearance, language skills or upbringing, they may have a natural executive presence. If you're not so fortunate, you must learn and practice a few tips. Put it into action. Own the role you're in. Perhaps you shy away and lack the confidence to act like a leader because you feel you don't deserve to be in the leadership position in the first place. Known as imposter syndrome, this tendency to feel you're not ready for or worthy of your current job role is quite a common anxiety. On average, I sense it affects women more than men. Talk about your issue with close colleagues, asking them to encourage and mentor you to become comfortable in your role. Then build up your extrovert confidence. If not already an outgoing and communicative extrovert, learn how to be one. Start by building up the confidence to say hello to new people, make small talk and give presentations as well as an experienced presenter. You might initially feel reluctant, particularly if you're a shy introvert, but all you can do is practice each day so that, little by little, you become more comfortable being outgoing and more confident in presenting yourself to other people. And literally stand tall and dress the part. Body language and posture sends a very strong message, and by simply standing upright in a calm way, you project more gravitas and stature. Similarly, what you wear has an impact on how you appear. It's worth the effort to find out what clothes, accessories and hairstyles work best for you in your particular work environment. 54 Give others the spotlight. Never hog the limelight. One of your main roles as a leader is to motivate people, including by making sure that they're acknowledged, thanked and recognized. This can bring so many benefits to you and them. People are happier, more satisfied and productive when their boss and colleagues are talking about and acknowledging their successes. As their boss, you should also feel energized because your team will admire and respect you more because of how you value and recognize them. It's easier to give someone critical feedback or ask them to take on difficult tasks when you have already created a strong relationship, based on you regularly recognizing their positive qualities and good work. Recognition can take many forms, from a simple "thank you" in a meeting, through having them share at your annual company conference about a project they have successfully worked on, awarding them the Employee of the Month, all the way to offering them a job promotion. When recognition is lacking, people can get very upset. Perhaps you have experienced how this feels when you have been similarly ignored. You probably started to become demotivated, disengaged, even depressed and feeling worthless. People can feel especially upset when they see others getting the recognition for work that they themselves were wholly or partly responsible for. This can lead to anger, envy, jealousy, and even complaints that their boss is showing favoritism or being mean in denying them any recognition. Put it into action. Vary how you recognize people. Giving recognition is not as simple as doing one thing all the time. Too much of the same thing loses its impact, and there's a limit to how many times a person can be given the same Employee of the Month award before it begins to feel awkward and embarrassing. Similarly, you can't hope to recognize different people in the same way. One person might really appreciate a "thank you" email written about them and sent to a wider team, while for another this might mean very little and they may be seeking recognition in terms of more job responsibilities. Take time in your working week to reflect about who needs recognition and the forms it might take. Be generous and fair and avoid accusations of always recognizing the same few people in your team. Try asking your team members if they feel that you're recognizing them enough and for the right reasons, and involve them in suggesting who may be worthy of some special recognition. Create opportunities for recognition. Always give people the opportunity to shine and to stand in the limelight, and, when possible, sacrifice your own opportunity or need to be recognized. When senior bosses are visiting your department or location, allow your team to meet and present to them without you doing all the talking. When you're asked to represent your team at a global annual event, don't always attend yourself but ask one of your team to stand in for you. Consciously rotate who you ask each time such an opportunity arises to be able to give the limelight to more people. 55. Wisely step in to micromanage. Breathing down their necks is unlikely to endear you to your team, but sometimes you just have to. One of the worst types of leader is the one who never leaves their team members alone. In Chapter 43, you learned that being a boss who is guilty of peering over your team's shoulders can be very demotivating and suffocating, and is often a key reason why someone resigns from their job. Although micromanaging must never be your default leadership style, sometimes you have to micromanage when you know there are very good reasons to become very closely involved in a team member's work. These might include when a new team member has joined the team who is not familiar with various aspects of their duties and responsibilities. An existing and experienced team member has taken on a new and challenging task that may be very high profile or very costly if not done well. You have a poor performing team member who you need to work closely with in an attempt to encourage and challenge them to improve. There's an emergency or very urgent deadline, and you know you can't risk leaving your staff alone to deal with the relevant tasks. Such periods of firefighting are hopefully rare and not a daily occurrence. Put it into action. Choose carefully when you micromanage. The secret is to never allow any form of micromanaging to become your default habit and automatic style, but instead to have it as one of the possible tools that you only use in very specific situations where you feel it's the most appropriate leadership style. Be an encouraging and inspiring micromanager. The difficult thing about micromanaging is doing so without demotivating and upsetting staff. Successful leaders manage this by following these rules. Explain your reasons and need to work closely with them, and ask for your team members' understanding. Ask them how they would like to be micromanaged rather than simply imposing your style on them. They may prefer to come to your office rather than having you peering into their work area. Remain calm and avoid showing unnecessary anxiety, stress and worry about the person's performance, as this will make the other person more anxious and they may start to view your attempts to help them in a negative light. Show that you value and trust the person you're micromanaging. This is not easy, as being micromanaged leaves most people with a sense of not being trusted. Try to overcome this by openly talking with your team members about how much you trust and value them, explaining the reasons why you need to micromanage them at this point. 56. Spread optimism. Be careful what you start. Both optimism and pessimism are highly contagious. Have you ever worked for a very pessimistic boss? There can be nothing worse than working for someone who is always grumpy, negative and depressed. You'll feel demotivated and unhappy while your boss will probably underperform in their leadership role. Common sense suggests such a correlation between a leader's optimism and their performance, and a 2017 research paper in the International Journal of Management that reviewed studies on this topic confirmed this, finding that optimism strongly impacts leadership effectiveness in 4 ways. Optimism creates trust between people. It helps a leader remain positive and resilient in troubled times. It creates a more cooperative and sharing environment. It raises a person's self-efficacy or belief in their ability to achieve goals. But optimism does more than even this. It can also help you achieve a healthier and longer life. A 2002 Yale University study concluded that more positive people live an average of 7.6 years longer than other people do. So it's worth working on. Successful leaders understand all of these benefits and will always try to project optimism, knowing that being pessimistic and down will only serve to demoralize your employees, turn away clients, and even make investors cautious. There are moments though when an experienced leader might need to tone down appearing so optimistic, for example when apologizing for a mistake their company has made, announcing poor financial results, or acknowledging the death of a colleague. But these are exceptions that prove the rule. Most of the time a successful leader will consistently project optimism in all their words and actions. Put it into action. Develop an optimistic outlook. Train your mind to be optimistic. Whether you're a naturally positive person or are someone who tends to view the glass as being half empty. Have an honest look at your patterns and ask other people to give you their opinions on how often and in what ways you exhibit a positive and optimistic outlook. Understand when you may have a tendency to act the opposite, for example when things are not going your way or someone is disagreeing with you. Ask close colleagues to tell you when they observe you starting to act in a negative way. Tell yourself in that moment to let go and move on, by smiling, laughing, taking a walk, or closing your eyes and calmly observing yourself breathe. If necessary, be an actor and fake a smile. Approach events and situations through a positive lens by asking yourself and your colleagues questions such as, in spite of this delay, what are the positives we can build on? Although we are facing these roadblocks, what is going well? Or, the project may have failed to meet the client's expectations, but what are the positive lessons learned for next time? Stay away from negative people and avoid hiring such people into your teams and organization. Their lack of positive mindset can be toxic and will sap your energy as you try to manage and ring-fence their negativity. Always inform your team members and colleagues when you're not feeling positive and may come across as negative or depressed. When feeling this way, try to stay away from people by working from home, canceling meetings, and avoid making important decisions. When feeling down, it's better to be alone rather than allow other people to catch a dose of your pessimism. 57 Pick people up when they fall. Everybody faces struggles. Leadership is about encouraging people to keep on trying. It's very easy for a leader to acknowledge and celebrate their team's successes, particularly when they can share in the glory. The team's good work reflects well on you as their boss, and you'll be easily motivated to share, build on, sustain, and replicate these successes. Your challenge arises when the opposite happens and one of your team struggles to achieve their goals and might even completely fail. In today's increasingly volatile and complex business environment, struggling and failing are becoming more common. How will you respond when it happens? How you react to your team members when they fail at something is an important measure of your leadership maturity. It can be very easy to simply become angry, upset, and critical, and to leave your team member in no doubt as to what they have done wrong. A wise leader might also be upset but would quickly switch to a broader strategy of helping the individual to learn, grow, and move forward through challenging them to accept, learn, and grow from their experiences and mistakes, supporting them to positively move forward and to keep on trying. Put it into action. Systematically challenge and support whenever one of your team struggles to complete their work and achieve their goals. Use this 5-part process to help them learn and grow. 1. Allow the individual to talk about and share their feelings, disappointments, and concerns, e.g. over how people, including you, reacted. 2. Support them to explore, understand, and learn from what happened, who was at fault, and how to avoid repeating the same mistakes. 3. Provide necessary training, coaching, mentoring, or other forms of support to help them succeed next time. 4. Spend time with them, encouraging, inspiring, uplifting, and motivating them to confidently and positively move on. 5. Give them the backing, trust and reassurances to encourage them to undertake the same activity or task again. Never gloat, never be a leader who revels in other people's struggles and failures, even if they're your competitors. Stay silent and neutral if you must, but never put someone else down when they're already feeling bad and struggling. Apart from being the right thing to do, you never know when you may need their help, encouragement and support in the future. When mistakes are repeated, respond with wisdom, not emotion. If somebody repeats the same mistake, you may feel upset and angry with them. Depending on the circumstances, you may wonder if you should retain this person in your team. Before blaming them, explore whether their struggles might in fact be your fault and that you did not do all you could to help them learn from their first mistake, did not optimally equip and support them to try again another time. 58. No bullshit allowed. Want to be a great leader? Start by cutting out the lies. Leaders are continually being shown to have lied. Too often, it's shrugged off and accepted with all kinds of justifications such as, "It was a small twisting of the truth." Other people make the same false claim. "It was a one-off and I never normally deceive people." The truth is too painful and complicated. Everyone else is saying the same thing. The truth is so unclear anyway. Nobody wants to hear the truth. You might feel that telling the occasional lie is acceptable and insist that you're honest the rest of the time. However, a 2016 study in the Nature Neuroscience journal in which a team of psychologists, including Dan Ariely, showed that as we lie more, our brains produce fewer feelings of guilt, fear and anxiety. In other words, as we act more dishonest and deceptive, we become less likely to stop ourselves doing it again. Trying to be honest may not be easy, but the benefits should be incentive enough to compel you to try to always act with 100% integrity. You'll be trusted and respected as someone who speaks the truth and gives honest feedback and assessments. There may be moments when you're not very popular for speaking the truth, but others will hopefully respect you for being a person of character. Honesty is so easy while lying takes energy because you have to expend energy not being found out. This involves having to remember what you said in case you ever need to repeat the same lie. People will be more comfortable in opening up and sharing with you when they know you can be trusted to keep your word. Being honest is contagious and will encourage those you work with to also be more open and truthful. Put it into action. Think long-term reputation over short-term gains. The next time you're tempted to tell even a small white lie, ask yourself, is the cost of being found out really worth it? Even if your conscience is fine with you twisting the truth, is your reputation and name going to withstand the discovery that you were dishonest? You need to be especially strong when coming under pressure from colleagues to cover something up and to lie, such as pretending a task was completed on time when it was not. Be strong and understand that protecting your reputation must always outweigh the upset and pressure that you cause by refusing to play along. If it becomes too stressful to remain honest, be willing to move on. Choosing to resign is never a failure in such cases and is simply you choosing to protect yourself from potential bullying, peer pressure and being ostracized by your colleagues. If you're a senior leader and feel strong enough, you may choose to stay in order to try to proactively change the working culture. Push others to come clean. Even if you work in a really healthy environment where integrity is highly valued, you may still have colleagues who make up stories and play with the truth from time to time. As a leader, it's your duty to stop them in their tracks. You may try to do this diplomatically, in private, in a friendly unofficial manner or in a more formal way where you officially report what they have done. 59. Don't forget your health. It's not easy to lead other people when lying in a hospital bed or in a coffin. Nobody would destroy their health in pursuit of leadership and career success, would they? Sadly, far too many leaders do exactly this. They work their way up the leadership ladder while simultaneously burning out from stress, becoming physically sick, mentally ill and emotionally drained. I have coached dozens of such leaders and am astonished how unhealthy they had allowed themselves to become while chasing year-end bonuses and promotions. Successful leadership requires skills such as details orientation, concentration, emotional balance, focus, calmness and persistence, all of which require you to be at your best. When you're stressed, overloaded and worn out, you can't perform these things well and as a result you risk making poor decisions and other mistakes because you're tired and unable to concentrate, lacking positive inspiration due to feeling stressed and depressed. not being calm and happy because of the pain and irritation from tense muscles, a stiff neck or headaches, having no desire to look forward, to set a vision and direction because you're so drained. As a result, you may start losing interest in your work and career. Put it into action. Look after all parts of your health. You must do whatever it takes to maintain your overall well-being and health. Physical health. Have an exercise regime made up of physical activities that interest you, such as walking, running, sports, or visits to the gym. Mental health. Keep your mind calm and rested by seeking moments of silence, stepping away from the noise of your everyday tasks, perhaps taking up meditation and taking walks in nature. Emotional health. Step away from tense and angry situations and pause before reacting when a person or situation is making you boil inside. Spiritual health. We all seek meaning in our work and balance in our lives. When your leadership role no longer gives you either, make changes. This might include moving on from your current job and/or organization. Always put your health ahead of your leadership career. When the stresses of being a leader gets the better of you, be willing to step back, slow down, or even resign to protect your health. This is what successful leaders do, and you should never feel you have failed by putting your health ahead of your career. Take a leaf out of the book of Lloyds Bank's CEO, Antonio Horta Osorio, who temporarily stepped down from his role in 2011 to recover from exhaustion. After a couple of months of leave, he returned to his leadership role with the bank, which he still holds. Keep an eye on your team's health. Help your team to focus on their own health by talking about health-related topics and issues such as stress, working hours, conflicts and tensions, physical working environments, healthy eating and exercise. Always be supportive of your employees' ideas and suggestions relating to ways in which you can collectively make all of your work and lives healthier. 60. Be bold and daring. Stop playing it safe. Take your team where you have never been before. Your leadership skills will be tested when you're taking your team, organization, or business in new and uncharted directions in pursuit of some large and audacious goals. Too many leaders are too cautious and conservative to do this and will find every imaginable reason to explain why such goals are impossible to achieve. Successful leaders are quite different and never suppress their boldness, passion, audacity, and daring. They use these things to excite, energize, and motivate people, including themselves, to tackle even the most impossible-looking goals. You can always spot such leaders as the ones who are willing to create and focus on extraordinary goals that might seem like pipe dreams to others. Turn ordinary teams into extraordinary team players who are happy to commit to challenges that would overwhelm most people. Elon Musk is an example of a leader who consistently acts in this bold and daring way. You can see this in all of his projects and businesses, including in his plans to colonize Mars, to create reusable vertical landing rockets, and to build the world's largest lithium-ion storage system in South Australia in a self-imposed short time frame. Not every leader has the personality, ambition, or inclination to become an Elon Musk, but all successful leaders do develop and practice, in their own way, the skills of thinking big and encouraging others to follow suit. Put it into action. What is stopping you from thinking big? Observe your reactions and feelings when presented by your colleagues or senior bosses with a very ambitious goal or dream. If you're reluctant to explore and embrace their ideas, understand why and be willing to work out why you're reluctant. It's okay to feel overwhelmed and worry about the challenges involved in working on such goals. But this is an issue to deal with later, not a reason to shoot down the ambitious goal or plan today. It's understandable to think a large goal may be impossible to achieve and, as a result, to not want to invest any time or energy in discussing it. But suspend such skepticism and disbelief, saying to yourself, maybe it's possible, and start allowing yourself to actively listen to those who are selling the idea. Take the risk to chase enormous goals. Be willing to pursue your own bold goals. Just as you might have been skeptical of other people's ambitious and crazy ideas, be ready to develop a thick skin to repel other people's doubts and skepticism. Become so passionate about your own ideas that you can more easily find the courage and sense of conviction to push ahead, even when your colleagues may think you're crazy. Seek buy-in from your team. Practice being more extrovert and expressive in your communications. This will help give uplifting, inspiring, and motivational talks to your team to seek their support for your goals. Use positive and inspiring words such as calling your plans exciting, groundbreaking, and first of a kind to help enthuse your colleagues and help them buy into your ideas. You could also create stories to share with your team that help express the vision of where you wish to take them, and make it easier for them to understand your bold goals. 61. Look way beyond the bottom line. Every leader has a deep purpose and responsibility to the earth and all humanity. It's no longer enough to meet your sales, profits and growth targets. To call yourself a successful leader today, you also need to ensure that everything you create is sustainable and helping make the world a healthier and better place in which to live. To do this, you need to recognize and deal with all kinds of questionable leadership practices with which you might be connected, such as building up a highly profitable mineral water business, which is removing all of the water from the local aquifers, and reducing the water table, expanding your purchasing of clothing products from suppliers in low labor cost countries and turning a blind eye to claims that your clothes are produced with child and forced labor and produce dye waste that pollutes rivers by the factories, happily distributing single-use coffee pods and other plastic-based products without having any plans to move to biodegradable products or having product recycling initiatives with your customers, outsourcing your warehousing and supply chain to a firm whose staff are on 0-hours contracts and who must stand continuously for 12-hour shifts with only very short monitored breaks, having a high carbon footprint through allowing your staff to always fly to conduct business rather than working through video conferences with overseas colleagues and stakeholders, running a furniture manufacturing firm which sources wood from logging companies who are felling trees without any regard for the environmental impact. You can no longer lead a business in isolation and ignore its impact on the environment, communities and society at large. So no matter whether you lead a small local or large global organization, become a leader who wants to leave a positive impact on the world around you for the future of your children and their children. Put it into action. Review where your business is today. Carry out an audit of your entire business practices, processes and leadership decisions using external consultants or drawing upon a cross-section of staff and leaders to conduct the review. Have them draw up a list of any questionable activities and organize brainstorming and feedback sessions to collectively decide ways in which your business can be more ethical, fair and environmentally friendly. Try the "What would your 16-year-old think?" test to give you a wider perspective. Share the results of your audit and of the brainstorming and feedback sessions with a group of young people. Ask them what they think you should do. It's highly likely that they will answer you from a very clear ethical, sustainable and fair standpoint, and that their conclusions may help steer your own decision-making. Have regular CSR discussions. Get into the habit of having corporate and social responsibility (CSR) reviews and conversations involving a wide cross-section of your company's staff and key stakeholders. Create a budget for spending on various CSR-related initiatives such as giving back to the local community, organizing beach cleanups and creating recycling systems. Have the courage to sacrifice the bottom line. Never delay rectifying unacceptable practices. It's better to face the cost and pain by choice, rather than waiting for a scandal to force the company to change. Become a leader for whom profits are important but not everything. Make it clear that you would never hesitate to do what is right and incur the extra cost. An example might be to stop buying raw materials from low-cost factories that treat their staff badly, and switch to more expensive suppliers who are being openly monitored and provide fairer working conditions to their staff. 62. Be an excellent mentor. To help other people grow, share your words of wisdom. All leaders share their expertise, knowledge and experiences, and by doing so are being mentors to their colleagues, who, in mentoring jargon, are mentees. Unfortunately, most leaders do this very badly because they have never been taught how to professionally mentor other people. Their most common mistakes include sharing favorite stories and anecdotes from their careers that may have no relevance to what a mentee's challenges are and what they're seeking help with, lecturing a mentee without asking any questions to better understand the mentee's actual needs or to clarify if the mentee is understanding what is being said. Not listening to the mentee and treating the mentoring as a one-way communication process and an opportunity to show off and impress. Learning nothing from the mentee's own experiences. Poor mentoring is counterproductive and can leave a mentee struggling to find value in and apply the advice the leader has given them. The resulting confusion and sense of being stupid can be very demotivating and disengaging. This is comparable to a leader always being directive through telling, lecturing and teaching, and their staff just have to listen. Best practice mentoring is not simply about giving other people your advice, experience and opinions, it's a journey of discovery involving a two-way sharing and learning process, in which the mentor helps the mentee reflect upon their own experiences, build up their own wisdom, become mature and improve the depth and breadth of their thinking. The mentor asking insight-provoking questions rather than simply giving advice. At appropriate moments, they may draw upon their own experiences and share helpful insights and suggestions aligned with the mentee's own needs, situation and context. Put it into action. Become a best practice mentor. Adopt the following framework for responding to requests for help. When asked to help someone, first decide whether they need an immediate answer from you or whether there's time to mentor. Start any mentoring as a coaching conversation by exploring what the mentee's issues are and what options they already have in mind to solve their own problems. To help guide the conversation, follow the GROW model which you learned in Chapter 47. During the conversation, switch from coaching to mentoring by saying something like, "Having helped you explore and understand your issue and available options, let me share some helpful ideas and suggestions. Align your advice with your colleague's own situation and needs." Ask the mentee whether they found your idea or story helpful and relevant, and how might they apply it to their own setting. If both of you find the initial mentoring conversation of value, you could continue the relationship over many months, having further conversations where the mentee can bring up any topic for discussion. Create an in-house mentoring program. Work with your HR colleagues to set up or offer to support any existing in-house mentoring programs where newer and/or less experienced staff and leaders can be paired with a mentor such as yourself. Ideally, a person's mentor should never be their own line manager, in order to give the mentee someone other than their boss to open up to. Be open to learning from your mentee's younger team members. Might bring you all kinds of new insights, including in the areas of technology and trends among their generation that might help you learn how to motivate and engage with them. This process of a mentor learning from a mentee is known as reverse mentoring. 63 Break rules. Show bravery by ignoring silly rules and norms. Successful leaders sometimes don't allow rules, policies and norms to stand in their way of taking the right actions, choices and decisions. The larger and more established the organization you work within, the more likely that rules might have to be bent or ignored in order to get things done. This might involve breaking accepted norms, unwritten rules, agreed policies or written guidelines such as, your predecessor always attended particular weekly internal meetings but you realize that there's no point in you continuing this practice and you stop attending. When challenged on why you're breaking this accepted practice, you may have to explain your reasoning. HR policies state that every candidate must be interviewed by 5 colleagues and be reference and salary checked before a job offer can be given to them. However, you interview a really outstanding candidate, who has only met one other colleague to date, and you realize this job seeker is about to accept a competitor's job offer. You decide to ignore the hiring rules and immediately extend her a written job offer. Your team have been working very well over a number of years with a supplier of a niche service. Under new procurement rules, you realize that this supplier should be dropped because they can't fulfill various compliance requirements, but you decide to continue working with them, claiming that there's no other supplier in the market with their important skill set. Put it into action. Be wise. The secret is to be wise and sensible in deciding when and how you flout your company's written and unwritten rules. Never do so if it risks your career or reputation. If you have already overstepped the mark and made the mistake of ignoring a really important rule, seek the understanding and forgiveness of your boss or senior colleagues, and never do it again. Be open and honest when challenged. Never deny having ignored a company policy. Calmly explain your rationale for not getting the right approvals, filling in the correct documentation or following a set time frame. Help change the rules if they're of no value. Be ready to speak up and suggest that a broken or useless policy is scrapped when it brings no value to the organization and perhaps is already being ignored by many colleagues without any negative impact. Stay within the law. It should go without saying that breaking rules should never extend as far as breaking a particular country's laws. You might fire a member of your team without following all the requested internal procedures but never violate any applicable employment laws. Similarly, you might breach your company's expense limits when taking a client out for a celebration dinner, but you must never give the client anything that might leave you accused of breaking an anti-bribery law in that country.